the KIG alone could produce 60 to 90,000 metric tons per kilometer, or that is around parang 3 to 5% of the fisheries total capture fisheries production in the country. So that in itself, parang it underscores its value kasi yun yung hindi nakikita.
Magandang araw mga kapwa siyentista. Welcome sa BTS or ang Behind the Science podcast, kung saan kakausapin natin ang mga nangungunang siyentista sa iba't ibang field sa buong Pilipinas. So we are very fortunate today kasi ang ating guest actually is one of my batchmates from Masters of Science in Marine Science in UPMSI. She also got her certificate on Center of Excellence in Observational Oceanography from the Alfred Wegener Institute last 2022 in Germany. So she is currently a project technical specialist in the UP Mindanao under Dr. Cleto Nanyola. And she has experience in various researches from the Marine Science Institute as a research assistant. Okay, so for today, we will be talking about one of her researches or one of the researches that she has been involved with, which is the estimating the potential fisheries production of 3 offshore reefs in the West Philippine Sea in the Philippines. So this was published in September 2020 in the Philippine Journal of Science. So without any further ado, let's all welcome Joey Cabasan. Hi, Joey.
Hi, Kate. Hi, everyone.
So, ayun nga, nabanggit ko kanina that we know each other from Masters. So, paano ba natin nakilala isa't isa?
Well, so courseworks and of course, syempre, mas naging close naman tayo through fieldworks and diba, we hang out together, of course, but hindi tayo busy. We go out sa mga inuman sa Diliman. Sometimes we talk about science pa rin naman. So,
syempre, hindi naman mawawala yun. Syempre, part siya ng buhay na. Well, anyway, so, before we go to the research itself, let's revisit the young and curious you, the young Joey.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you were younger, when did you realize that you would want to work in the science sector?
Nung bata ko kasi, we really live close to the beach. So, parang siguro mga less than a kilometer lang. And parang I live in a very tight-knit community. So, parang alala ko, like almost every parang weekend, pumupunta kami sa dagat with friends. So I have my fondest memories sa dagat talaga. But when I was in high school, hindi talaga ako ganun nagkaroon ng interest sa science. Kasi for some reasons, parang mas nag-excel ako sa math. So parang mas mahirap akong nakakaintindi nung parang concepts sa science and all that. Pero and then actually when I applied for UPCAT, I took parang sa UP Mindanao, so medyo limited lang yung courses. It's only 9 courses compared to, of course, other campuses. So I applied for computer science and applied mathematics. So yun lang naman ang pinasa ko. But then there was one time when I went to my cousin's house and then I was reviewing the photos that she had when she was in college, and she was a biology student. And then dun ko nakita na pupunta siya sa mga iba-ibang lugar sa Pilipinas to do fieldworks and all of that. And sabi ko, parang maganda din to. So she was a graduate of BS Biology. And then, so nung pumunta ako sa UP at that time, I think I was also very lucky kasi hindi ganun kadami yung nag-enroll ng biology at that time, nung year ko. And tas marami pa actually yung computer science na nag-enroll. So, I went to the registrar and then I asked them na pwede po bang mag-change ng course? Kasi if not, my other option would would be to shift, no? Pero yun, so sabi naman ng registrar, 18 lang yung bio. So kung gusto mo, pwede ka naman dito kasi ikaw yung ika-19 basically. So I grabbed that opportunity and I think that was the turning point of everything. Start na yung curiosity ko sa science in general, and then dun na sa BS Biology program.
So from a BS Bio major, like, I mean, when you were younger, hindi mo ba naisip na, okay, bakit parang gusto ko tong ginagawa? Wala kang observation na ganun from other people?
Wala masyado nung bata pa ako. Parang hindi ko naman, parang ang gusto ko talaga maging teacher. Parang maging educator. Oo. So parang leading, I think, to my graduation nung high school, parang yun talaga yung gusto kong gawin. So I took up other examinations din from other universities. Pero yung talagang nag-start na yung gusto kong maging scientist, I think, when I was already doing my master's thesis. My undergraduate thesis with Dr. Ting Nanyola. So he's fish biology expert also, one of the best in the Philippines. He's also a product of the Marine Science Institute. So yun, so my major at that time was cell biology kasi yung batch namin yun yung kinuha nung lahat. And madidissolve yung isang batch. Kung kunwari half mag-ecology, parang less than 10 na lang kami sa batch namin nung nag-third year na on the regular na courseworks. So yun, so nag-cell biology kami lahat. But luckily, my project naman yung advisor ko at that time, si Dr. Ting Nanyola. Meron siyang project on population connectivity using fish samples. And then, so, yun, so mostly based kami sa lab work, ganon. So, DNA extraction, mga ganon, polymerase chain reaction. So, yung mga ginagawa ko, basically laboratory works. Pero, at the same time, when may mga field work, sumasama kami. And then, the first time I went down, nag-snorkel, ganon, doon ko nasabi talaga, parang, this is a different world. This is what I wanna do. Sabi ko, ito na yun. So, yan, pinatuloy ko naman na siya.
So, from concentration on cell bio, you're now one of the leading.
Wag naman. Ano pa?
And I mean, you're one of the prominent, yung mga kilala na fish biologist. At least on my end, nakilala kong fish biologist or biologist or marine scientist that focuses on fishes. And I think yung transition mo from for a person who would pursue dapat computer science and then to entering the big world of fish biology, that's a very big jump.
True. I think na lang talaga siya. Parang everything fall into place.
Yes. Parang the universe has given you the thing na hindi mo alam na gusto mo pala.
Yes.
So, with that, let's go to your paper since fish biology na rin naman pinag-uusapan natin. So, sabi natin kanina, your paper is on the estimation of your fish, yung fish density. Yung 3 coral reefs, tama?
Like yung potential fisheries production niya. Because sa fish, sa ginagawa naming field, so one of it is we estimate the potential fisheries production through fish independent and fishery dependent and fishery independent surveys. So basically, kung ano yung potential na pwedeng ma-produce ng isang coral reef areas. Kumbaga yung parang valuation niya. Not necessarily valuation kasi yung valuation is with money na. Pero at least ano yung potential niya na production sa isa reef areas.
Ayan. So I think nasagot mo na yung dapat first question ko, which was to explain your paper in one sentence. So basically, we're looking at kung ano yung possible carrying capacity. Tama ba?
Hindi naman siya
carrying. Am I relating it?
hindi siya talaga yung carrying capacity, but it's more of parang kung ano yung kayang potential ng coral reef na na pwede mong sigurong ma-harvest in terms of fisheries. Parang gano'n. Like, we are estimating kung gaano kadami yung fisheries na kayang isupport or parang napoproduce ng isang area, ng isang coral reef area. Parang gano'n.
Oh. Okay, so paano tayo nakaabot sa ganitong research or paano na-formulate yung research question ninyo for this paper?
Yun. So, itong paper actually is part naman siya nung isang mas malaking project with DANR Biodiversity Management Bureau pero implemented by the Marine Science Institute. So, the last time that maybe maraming scientists yung pumunta sa Kalayaan Island Group was in the 1990s pa, no? Siguro late 1990s, 98, 99. And at that time, parang of course, medyo nagkaroon ng geopolitical issues in the KIG, in Spratlys Island. So parang we don't know how to respond in the science perspective when we don't know what's in there. And the last time we were there was in the late 1990s. So, kailangan ma-assess talaga siya. So, the main idea is to go there and to assess kung ano yung status ng coral reefs, ano yung status ng fish populations, and then also yung may studies din on the geology. So marami siya, multi-dimensional yung aspect. But then kami yung sa part ng coral reefs, coral reef surveys, and then specifically sa fish. So yung nangyari noon, so we need to do assessments sa coral reefs. We do fish visual sense surveys. And then, but at the same time, ano ba yung potential ng coral reef areas, in terms of fisheries production? So, naisipan namin, with Dr. Hazel O. Arceo, siya talaga yung nag-formulate ng idea na why not sabayan na din natin, na mag-experimental fishing tayo sa mga areas na to, and at the same time, for Scarborough Shoal, gusto din sana yung gawin, yung experimental fishing, but at that time, hindi inallow to go there pag scientist at that time. So what we did is we did interviews doon sa area ng malapit sa Scarborough Shoals, sa Masinloc. And yun yung ginawa namin. So doon na talaga siya na-formulate. So we did surveys in Masinloc, and then we did experimental fishing in 2 offshore reefs in the Kalayaan Island. So, yun yung ginawa. So, parang sinabay na siya doon sa mas malaking project, which is to do baseline studies in the KIG.
Oo, kasi syempre, minsan ka lang naman makapunta sa Kalayaan Group, di ba? So, parang you're hitting 2 birds, 1 stone na during that time.
Yes. And yun na nga, kasi wala talagang information. This was the first time after more than 20, siguro mga 20 years din, ganon, na makabalik yung scientists.
As you were saying kanina, ayun nga, sinabay nyo na yung paggawa ng experimental fishing and surveys sa Masinloc, and then 2 other reefs in the Kalayaan Group.
Yeah.
So, paano nyo ginawa? I mean, paano naman? Curious lang din kasi ako. So, ano yung pinagkaiba na experimental fishing than other, let's say, commercial fishing or yung normal fishing na ginagawa ng fisher folk natin?
So, basically, ang ginawa namin is yung kung ano yung parang ginagawa din talaga nung small-scale fishers natin, yung municipal fishers. So, pumunta kami sa laot. So, kumuha kami, meron kaming fishing gear. So, in this case, we stick with 2. So, the spear fishing and then multiple hook and line. And then yung spear fishing namin talaga na kinuha is yung may spear fisher is talaga yung may experience sa ganyang klase ng panguhuli ng isda. And then kami, we did hook and line naman, multiple hook and line, getting fishes from these areas no of interest. Ang kaibahan niya naman with commercial fishing kasi most of the commercial fishers no or commercial fishing are done in the offshore. So mas iba naman yung parang scale nila, so mas maramihan ganon. So ang gusto kasi naming malaman is ano ba yung potential talaga ng coral reef areas, no? Reef associated fisheries, hindi yung yung talagang pangmalakihan at mga tuna ganyan. So kung ano yung kasi magkaiba yon, diba? Like ano yung kayang ma-produce ng coral reef areas and compared doon sa mga pelagic fishes natin na nasa laot. So yun yung interest namin, and that's why sabi namin, I think this is the pwede natin gawin. Ito yung method on that. So we get samples and we base it also naman sa mga previous studies kung paano nila ginawa. So pinag-isipan naman siya. And then, so yun, when we do surveys, may araw talaga na meron kaming ina-allocate na mag-fishing lang talaga kami for the whole day. Ganon. And then at the same time, yun naman, iba naman yung ginagawa nung other members ng team namin na magda-dive talaga and getting estimates of the coral reef areas din. So iba din yung ginagawa nila.
So from this, meron kayong estimate for sure kung ilang species yung present dun sa certain areas?
Yeah, meron, of course. So yung paghuli namin ng isda, mini-measure namin sila sa length, and then of course yung weight nila kasi kaya naman namin na-estimate yon. Kasi of course you have your parang weighing scale, you have your measuring tape and stuff. So yun yung ginagawa namin. ID also, we ID the fish up to species level kung kaya. And then some of it actually we collect and then we I think store the sample somewhere in MSI. Siguro nasa museum yung ibang samples, of course, for further studies. Pero yun, meron kaming idea kung ilan yung number of species. But I think for the study, we stick with family level. So kasi mas yun yung important na aspect when you talk about fisheries. Diba? Like kunwari, pupunta ka sa palengke, hindi ka naman maghahanap ng isang species lang. Diba sasabihin mo, pupunta ka, bibili ka ng lapu-lapu. Yun, that's one family. Hindi ka naman bibili, papili po ng Plectrophomus lepartus. So, kaya we went with the family. Kasi syempre, di na yan makikilala, diba? So,
So, speaking of fisheries or fish families that are seen in the market, kasi ito segue question to kasi nakikita ko kasi yung mga parrot fishes available siya sa ibang market. So once and for all, from a fish biologist standpoint, dapat bang hinuhuli or binibenta ang parrot fishes in the market?
Oh, that's a really good question kasi masyado din yung hot topic sa Facebook or sa social media. Actually, wala kasi talagang batas na nagsasabing bawal humuli because parrotfish, if you talk about historically, talagang part naman siya sa parang targeted fishes ng small scale fishers ng Philippines, no? So and at the same time kasi kaya siya hot topic siguro kasi people would associate parrotfishes as yung grazers no ng algae and other stuff. So sabi ng marami kasing claims na parang they help in the algal phase shift, no, na parang sa coral reefs, so dahil meron sila nababawas ng algae, pero actually they are more interested in the cyanobacteria rather than the algae. So, well, yung iba naman is parang so yun yung talagang interest. Pero siguro meron lang mga species ng parrotfishes na siguro we need to have more teeth in in the implementation of controls. For example, yung tinatawag na bumphead parrotfish, I think nakikita na lang sila very rare sa coral reef areas and mostly doon sa mga pristine reefs, no? Like Apo Reef, Tubataha, and some parts of El Nido. Siguro yun yung pwedeng gawing magkaroon ng batas on, pero so far naman hindi. And hindi na meron kasing mga isda na you can have parang implementation na bawal na hulihin, like during season ng mga isda, so pwedeng magpa-close nung huli, ganon. Pero for parrotfishes, we need to learn more about their parang ontogenetic habitat shift, kung meron man, if ever, or kung ano ba yung current stocks nila, are they declining, are they not? Kasi based naman so far sa ating mga pag-aaral na hindi naman siya kailangan talaga na ipagbawal. Kasi we need to also support our small scale fishers, no? Kasi dapat when you talk about sustainability, hindi lang dapat sa environment but also your people. So kailangan lang dapat may balance, no?
Balance, yes. Ayun, so actually medyo nalinawan ako doon kasi I mean, there are instances na parang syempre nakikita mo siya, 'di ba? Nakikita mo siya habang nagsusnorkel ka, tapos makikita mo na siya sa palengke, tapos parang ay, pwede ba to? Pwede bang bumili nito? Pwede ba tong kainin? And parang, ayun nga, bigla nga siyang naging hot topic ulit sa Facebook na parang there's this call na wag hulihin and stuff like that.
Oo. So, nababasa ko din. Pero I try to respond naman in some parang posts. Something. So, di ba, kunwari, may friends ka, tapos pinost yun. Tapos, syempre, of course, yun na nga, kung hindi naman talaga siya bawal, yun, you explain to the person, and then yung iba naman tinitake down nila kasi it's not, parang mali din yung magkalat tayo ng fake news. Diba?
Misinformation, yeah. Pero, I mean, nakatikim ka na ba ng parrotfish?
Nakatikim na ako ng parrotfish? Oo naman. Pag, kunwari, nag-fielder kami, and then, minsan kasi, we also study parrotfishes for, yun na nga, marami ding nag-aaral ng age structure ng isda, ganon. So that's one thing you can assess actually if the population ng fish ay over-harvest na ba or hindi, ganon. So, yun. So, after mong kunin kung ano lang yung kailangan mo sa isda, like for example, in our case, kukolect kami sa palengke, and then you get, yung interest kasi namin na nasa otoliths, yung ear bones ng fish, which will help you know the age of the fish, diba? And then, so you get all what you need from the fish, you get tissue for DNA analysis in the future, ganon, or for population genetics. And then after that, yun yung kakainin namin. Kasi sayang din naman, diba? I mean,
sabagay.
Kasi sample mo din siya.
Andiyan na rin, no? Oo.
Masarap siya ipak.
Andiyan na rin naman eh. Masarap siya
ipaksyo. I mean, sa ano ko. Masarap siya paksyo.
with respect, in connection to the fisheries products, ano yung result na nakuha ninyo based on your research on the area sa Kalayaan Group?
So, ang pinaka-main, I think, na nakuha talaga namin na sagot from doing the survey is yung coral reef areas sa Kalayaan Island Group and sa Scarborough Shoal are relatively, they are fishery-rich areas sa country, and they are, the KIG alone could produce 60 to 90,000 metric tons per kilometer, or that is around parang 3 to 5% of the fisheries, total capture fisheries production in the country. So that in itself, parang it underscores its value kasi yun yung hindi nakikita. I mean, we see KIG as parang, sa sovereignty. That's good, no? But also in the aspect ng fishery resources, it's really high compared with other coral reef areas in the country. So yun yung isang main point talaga. And the other one is yung changes na nakita namin sa interview, with changes that happen after access constraints sa Scarborough Shoal. So talagang lumiit yung fishers production, nag-iba yung mga nahuhuling isda kasi of course nag-iiba din yung fishing grounds. Yung parang before, fishers would have the chance para mag-collect ng isda or mag-harvest kasi historically or traditionally doon naman sa Scarborough Shoal talaga Bajo de Masinloc naman talaga na kumukuha yung ibang fishes. But since there was a limitation kung paano pumunta doon and syempre meron na ding parang access constraint talaga sa area from other international parang countries. So yon, nag-change talaga, mas lumapit na sila sa coast natin, and some of them actually they no longer go to Scarborough Shoal. So kumbaga merong fishers production din na nasayang kasi hindi mo na siya nakuha.
For reference, gaano kalayo si Bajo de Masinloc from the coast?
I think it's around 200 plus kilometers from the nearest one. From kailan ba? From Subic or from Masinloc?
Subic.
From Masinloc. Yun yung pinakamalapit na area. Yeah, in Subic to Masinloc. Yun yung pinaka-close to Scarborough Shoal. It's around 200 kilometers. So it's within our EEZ actually.
Oo. Pero ang layo din pala niya. I thought it was just like almost 100. Pero lampas pa pala.
I'll check on that. Pero sa pagkakaalala ko, I think it's around 200 kilometers.
I can only imagine kung gaano katagal naglalayag yung mga small fishing vessels natin. Papunta dun sa Bajo de Masinloc. And then, pagdating nila dun, may eme.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. Actually, it's 198 kilometers from Subic.
So almost 200 nga din. Pero yun nga, I mean, imagine that far.
Yes.
To, tapos, yun nga, may eme dun sa area.
I mean, yung fishers kasi, of course, like, traditional, they know kasi na-reach talaga yung Scarborough Shoal. So even if it's 200 kilometers, so pupuntahan nila kasi they would have elevated catch, right? Pero yun, because of the access constraints, so parang instead na pupunta sila doon to fish, parang mas shorten na lang yung time kasi mas sa offshore na sila, hindi na sila, like kunwari, if there's sudden weather conditions na hindi favorable for them, yung Bajo de Masinloc kasi, it helps them na parang kung mag-anchor sila doon sa side na hindi masyado exposed nung nung wave na mataas because of the weather conditions, or kung hindi masyadong ng hangin, ganon. So may tulong kasi yung coral reef area talaga when parang minimize niya yung effect, diba, ng wave, ganon. So dahil nawala yun, of course, syempre ayaw din naman nila i-risk yung life nila for it. So ang tendency is, syempre, since naputol yung parang protection na nabibigay yung shoal during bad weather conditions, so yung tendency nila is just to go closer na lang sa kanilang area. And that means a loss of the potential fish catch ng mga fisher folk.
Okay. So, actually, this problem, yun nga, I mean, it's both a science and a social science issue. Diba?
Yes.
You would want to protect also yung source of fishes ng locals by actually examining yung mga possible fish production values na makukuha nila dun sa areas na yun.
Yeah.
And nabanggit mo kanina na this is funded by
DNR. So the project was funded by DNR Biodiversity Management Bureau, or the DNR BMB. Yeah.
BMB.
Under the Care Cadres na program.
Did it cover the whole expense and the scope of your objectives para dun sa project?
Oh, I mean, ang CARICADOS program kasi or ng Biodiversity Management Bureau, so anuhin ko lang no for reference. So it's the Coastal Assessment for Rehabilitation Enhancement, Capability Development, and Resilience of Ecosystems program. So that was headed by Dr. Cesar Villanoy. So sapat naman yung pera in a sense kasi yung buong program, marami siyang scope actually. So kami is just under one project, which is the survey. What is just a survey of the Kalayaan Island Group and West Philippine Sea in general, which covers the area of Batanes down to Balabac. So kasi yun yung, when you talk about marine biogeographic region, yun yung cover talaga ng West Philippine Sea. So, and in that small project, marami na siyang nakuha ding information, no baseline information. So meron ding physical oceanography, may chemical oceanography na aspect, bathymetry. Actually, I was also with Paul during the research crew, so we know each other as well. So yon, and then ang other aspects naman nun, so may training din, no, aside dun sa project namin. So may training, may policy making, merong aspects paggawa ng manual. So I think it supported a lot of projects, and most of those projects have been actually published din naman through either the Philippine Journal of Science. And there was, if you remember, I think that was 2 years ago in 2022, there was a WPS series in Frontiers of Marine Science. So yun, maraming projects doon that was parang as a result of the entire CARICADRES program.
And that's really nakakatuwa.
Yes.
Kasi it's siya, parang ang daming nangyari sa CARICADRES program, and with all those happenings, parang okay, you would think that the money would not be able to support all those projects, but hindi, nagawa niya parang awesome, ganyan.
Yes. And some of the projects actually have multiple publications, and aside from that, meron ding, I think one of the best na parang takeaway from the project is marami talagang na-train na scientists, na parang early career scientists. Isa na ako doon. Like I was an RA, and then I continued the path of being scientist, ganon. And then marami pang iba na ganon din. Some people are already doing their PhD somewhere. Some are still in MSI, finishing their courseworks and their MS. So maraming napunta. Some are actually part now of several government agencies. So yun. So malaking impact yung nagawa ng project na yun, I would say.
Speaking of impact, let's go more on your personal experiences. So ano yung mga challenges na na-experience nyo, well, on your perspective, while doing this particular project?
Ang isa sa, I think, pinaka mahirap na challenge talaga was kasi nga yung you are going offshore, and this is the first time na babalik ulit yung maraming scientists sa Kalayaan Island Group. So parang marami kaming kailangan ginawa when you talk about like logistics. Parang, of course, and this is a multiple agency din na parang project, or parang maraming agencies na both government and then of course UP na parang kumbaga nagtulong-tulong to make this project. So that alone, so maraming meetings, and of course marami ding involved na parang paperworks, ganon. So I think yun yung mga challenge. And yung preparation, like at that time, nung naalala ko lang, nung nasa cruise kami, so meron kaming mga rubber boats na ginamit, pero mga 20 years old na yung rubber boat, gano'n. So, hindi na siya talaga, I remember, the first static may isang talagang right after siyang binaba from the mother boat, parang bigla siyang nag-pop. So, hindi na talaga siya nagamit the whole duration ng cruise. Kasi parang luma na nga sila, no? And then, of course, nasa laot ka. So, hindi siya marirepair agad, no? Kasi at that time, hindi pa dumadating yung pinoprocure nga ng gamit. But you get to do what you need to do, diba? So, kailangan mo. But I think, yun, it's also a lesson but na parang, yun, siguro we need to be more prepared. But at the same time, maganda din siya kasi you get to learn parang ideas from your project leaders at that time, sila Boss K and then Ma'am Hazel. They help us na parang, okay, so kunwari yung isang bagay hindi gumagana, what can we do? Diba? So that's also a learning experience kasi yun nga, natututo kami ng mga practical skills din while we were in the cruise. Natuto ako doon ako natuto paano yung mga tamang bowline, gano'n, mga tali, gano'n. So talagang siya, maliban sa science, you will also learn practical skills.
Oo. Tsaka once you're in the field, kasi meron kang mga problems na kailangan agad ng solusyon. Parang kailangan mo mag-decide, okay, paano to gagawin? Okay, anong pwedeng plan B for this?
True.
And I think yung training of going to the field, especially for a big cruise, is actually very useful in the future ng isang career scientist or upcoming career scientist.
Yes. Actually, naalala ko din pala, parang isang parang wala din kasing signal, diba, pag nasa offshore ka. So, yun. Kailangan, ano ka rin, like, anong tawag din? Kailangan ready ka din sa ganyan na wala mo lang signal or hindi mo kausap family mo or siguro kung may love life ka, ganun. So, dapat you know that aspects, no, before you go into joining research cruise.
Oo, exactly. Kasi, yun. Kailangan mo sabihan ahead of time the people you would leave behind in the mainland. The mainland.
Parang layo.
Okay, walang signal dito. Oh. Hindi kasi syempre nasa gitna ka ng dagat. Wala namang cell site.
Meron naman, well, we have satellite phone pero it's exclusive talaga for talagang importanteng mga bagay. Like,
important communication.
Yes, like communication with MSI, ganon, or at several agencies.
Since nasa experiences na rin tayo, ano yung mga memorable experience mo habang ginagawa tong project? In the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start with the good.
For me, yung pinakamagandang experience ko is like knowing a lot of people na parang you get to be a family when you're in the cruise. Kasi wala kang choice. I mean, diba? Like you would see each other every day for 15 or 30 days, ganon. So you get to know people, you get to be friends with them, and then at the same time, yun, parang meron kayong isang experience na parang talagang i-share nyo with the group. So even after the cruise, when you meet them in your work, at your work, ganon, sa MSI or kahit saan, so meron kayong i-share na bond with each other. I think yun yung isa. Tapos you also get to learn other aspects ng marine science. Like for example, I am a fish biologist, so I study usually fishes and then also coral reefs in general. Pero I barely understand yung mga ginagawa methods ng, for example, talagang mga hardcore na physical oceanography or na chemical oceanography. But because of the cruise, parang you get to learn more and appreciate more of what they do. Kasi you get to be involved in one way or another sa mga ginagawa din nila sa cruise. Yun. Ang ugly, wala naman masyadong ugly, pero siguro lang, may time kasi when we were in Pag-asa Island, parang as we were going back to the mothership, kasi yung mothership medyo nasa laot na siya nakapark, no? So I mean nakabuhay, kasi hindi naman siya pwedeng lumapit, baka masadsad yung barko. So from the Kalayaan Island group, from the Pag-asa Island, so babalik ka doon sa mother boat. So naalala ko, biglang nag-change ang weather, like yung talagang nagkaroon ng subasco, yung literally wala kang makitang, parang naging foggy and then umuulan. So, ganun yung nangyari. So, hindi mo makita yung nasa harap mo. Siguro, makikita mo lang yung kasama mo sa rubber boat. So, that was a little bit parang nakakatakot. Pero, scary talaga siya. So, natatawa kami kasi, ngayon natatawa, pero at that time, no, dumating kami sa point talaga na, kami, meron kasi kaming bit-bit na mga, ano ang tawag ng umiilaw na mga sticks na glow sticks? Yeah.
Glow sticks.
Sabi namin na natin, biyakin na natin. Tapos ganon-ganon kami ng ganon. And then sabi namin, ilabas na natin yung emergency flare just in case baka di nila tayo makita. And then siguro after 2 or 3 minutes, medyo nawala din naman siya. So, good thing naman na hindi naman kami nagkaroon ng anything na emergency na malaki talaga na kailangang immediate attention. Tapos yun, umakyat na kami, sabi nung iba naming mga kasama, nakita daw nila yung glow stick na umiilaw. So effective pala siya.
Oh. Actually, ayun nga, parang hindi ko ma-imagine if I were in that situation. I mean, tumatawa tayo ngayon kasi kinikwento mo na lang. Pero at that, pero kasi during that time, feeling ko sobrang heightened na yung adrenaline nyo. Anong gagawin nyo, ganyan.
Meron naman kami mga life vest. Pero syempre, diba, nasa offshore. Nasa offshore ka pa rin. So, nakatakot siya. Pero, ngayon nga, yun nga, tinatawanan mo na lang siya. But that's part of being in a fieldwork naman. Merong mga cases talaga na you will be put to test. Pero, yan. As long as may precautionary measures naman.
Ay, nako, ranas natin yan. Yung akala mo.
Diba?
Tapos nakakatawa na lang siya ikwento.
For sure, sa inyo, marami rin.
Ay, nako, oo. Pero, let's reserve that kwento for another day. So, going back, at what point did you guys realize na, mukhang okay na to for publication. The data we gathered is actually enough for a paper.
So, we have multiple meetings together with the team na involved sa paper. And then at the same time, ang pinakamaganda kasing nangyari din sa project was meron kaming write shop sa project. No? Part siya ng bandang pa-end na yung project. So, aside from working on the terminal reports, yung buong report ng buong project, meron din kaming write shop for parang kumbaga time namin mag-isip, no, and mag-strategize ng mga papel nga na ilalabas for public. So, isa ito sa mga naging topics, and then at the same time, we presented parts of the paper sa conferences. So, like, I presented the discussion on our fishery interviews in Scarborough Shoals sa sa PAMSA Nasugbu. That was 2017. And then
2017.
Yes. And then na lang siya, talagang na-polish. Of course, yun naman yung maganda. You present it in the public where you're still like making the entire picture.
Making it, yeah.
And then you get information from other people who are not part of it. So you get feedback na agad. No, and then you improve the paper, and then si Dr. Hazel who was the lead author of the paper, sabi niya, okay, pwede na natin itong sulatin.
Actually, very helpful ang conferences, no?
Yes. Syempre naman, like I think isa yun talaga sa parang din kasi siyang peer review, kaso nga lang parang nasa live, parang tsaka mabilisan. Pero diba, mas maraming tao yun, diba? Kasi ibigay mo yung papel mo sa journal. Siguro 3 or 4 lang yung magre-review. Pero pag nasa conference ka, like, marami na agad, diba? So,
So from being published in 2020, ano yung mga naging developments nung study? Nanganak ba siya ng ibang research or ano nangyari na dun sa research?
So ngayon, ito na talaga yung parang aspect ng fisheries production sa Kalayaan Island Group. Pero meron din kasi kaming data on the yung fish visual census data. So, yun yung nakokollect namin when we dive underwater, and we also have estimates sa fish sizes, kung ilang species nandun. Ngayon, so, meron kaming information basically, when you do fish visual census, you have information on species diversity, density or abundance ng fish, kung gaano sila karami, and also kung ano yung potential biomass niya, no? So parang kung ano yung you can estimate kasi potential biomass when you have the length nung isda. So merong ginagawang computation for that. So yun, that's one of our parang ngayon dine-develop pa rin na topic from the project. And actually meron naman kaming short parang feature article na we are trying to siguro publish, so not naman publish but share, no, to other people soon. So kung we check kasi ano yung nangyari, no, when it comes to the species diversity, abundance, and biomass, when you compare the measures that we get now, the estimate that we have now versus kung ano nangyari 30 years ago. So yun yung dine-develop namin ngayon na from the project then, which is the same project as this one.
And I would think continuous naman ang monitoring kasi we know that MSI routinely goes back to Pag-asa Island, di ba?
Yun, I think yun din yung isang magandang nangyari after the project kasi may mga sumunod na projects that parang kumbaga ginamit yung results ng previous projects to see kung ano pa yung kulang, no? So, and now we have the Pag-asa Island Research Center.
Yes,
Pag-asa
of course.
Research. Ano ba yung S? Pierce. I know it's Pierce. Pag-asa Island Research Station.
Research Station.
So, sa ngayon, I think it's every year na ginagawa. Kaya maganda siya.
And it's good na may research station na doon para at least, di ba? I mean, yung gamit, it's permanently housed doon. Hindi na natin dadalhin every time. I mean, may certain na mga gamit.
Yes.
Certain. Hindi pwedeng lang.
Oo, syempre yung kailangan i-maintain, hindi pwede iwan doon. Pero yeah, marami namang side projects after.
Just to reiterate the main topic of your paper, sa mga listeners natin at sa mga manonood, ano yung, in layman's terms, ano yung magandang or ano yung use ng information na nakuha ninyo to the public?
Na talagang mataas, no, na may potential talaga for fisheries talaga yung mga areas na sinurvey namin. And yun na nga, yung KIG alone, babalikan ko siya ulit, KIG alone could produce 60 to 90,000 metric tons per year or 3 to 5% ng marine total capture fisheries. So kailangan natin siguro I think we need to talk more about it, and then for siguro implementing agencies to see what we can do to parang preserve that or maybe to improve that.
Protect.
Kasi yun yung hindi masyadong napapag-usapan pa, no, na parang what we need to do about this. Kasi when you have good resources, like, and offshore kasi siya, so yung management is talagang mahirap. Kasi nga malayo, it's in a remote location, but ano ba yung pwede natin gawin to siguro continue or mas i-improve pa yung fisheries production na potential ng coral reef areas na ito. And that's just KIG alone, ha? How much more if you include other reef areas sa West Philippine Sea, no? Which represents 40% of the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines.
Hi. Kaya, I mean, all of this political turmoil in the area is actually complex siya.
Marami talaga.
Hindi lang siya...
marami siyang layers. Kasi, I mean, strategically wise, if you think about it, talagang parang daanan siya ng maraming trade din, no? Navigational route siya. Yeah, but now that we have information sa kanyang diversity, not only sa fish but plankton, and then there are also studies na showing that may potential larval sources din ang KIG to other coral reef areas. So, ibig sabihin, nagre-replenish siya ng sources. It could be corals, it could be fish, or other invertebrates siguro. We need to really think about what we can do siguro. And of course, maraming layers yun. Like, hindi lang aspect ng science or ng ecology yung titingnan. You need to also, check, if you do something, for example, management or MPAs, ganon. Like, there are also people who are dependent on these resources. So, tatanggalan mo ba sila? But kung tatanggalan mo sila, ano yung pwede mong ipalit? Kasi there is a community in Pag-asa Island. And then at the same time, ano ba yung magiging respond ng other countries, if ever, di ba? Would it be better to collaborate with them when it comes to networking of marine protected areas? Or, I don't know. So, marami siyang layers talaga. So, yun. And then at the same time, like, sino ba yung main na magmamanage noon? Kasi is it BIFAR, which of course yung aspect naman nila is of fisheries, or is it the DNR, because we need, sila naman yung naka-assign when you talk about resources sa dagat, marine resources, for example. So marami siyang aspects talaga, maraming layers, and kailangan i-coordinate yun. And that's something siguro na, di ko alam. I am not very familiar kung meron ng mga progress when you talk about parang ano yung next na mga pwedeng gagawin. But certainly we need it.
Ayun. Kaya din mahalaga yung input ng marine scientists on this matter kasi yun nga, it's a very complex topic that encompasses social, science, political, and pati yung human aspect ng. Before we end this episode, what would be your advice to aspiring researchers? I mean, we're still young researchers right now, pero syempre younger than us.
Parang wala pa akong karapatang magbigay ng advice. Pero
based on experience.
Ako siguro, like, I mean, ano ko naman siya, like, if there's a principle I want to live by, and it's common siya naman sa very famous siya na it's honor and excellence. So parang there's a reason bakit nauna yung honor bago excellence. So I think as a scientist, yun dapat yung maging core mo. Dapat honorable ka as a person. When you talk about getting data, publishing a paper, dapat meron kang ethic. Parang meron kang magandang ethics, as a scientist. Kasi doon talaga nag-start. I mean, like, yun yung core mo dapat, I think, as a person, whichever field. Pero importante din talaga siya science. Because in science, we always still, ang core dapat natin is yung truth and yung fact. So, kailangan maging honorable ka as a scientist. And then, when you're an honorable person, you get to excel, siguro, in all aspects. And then, yun. And then, when it comes naman to working, I guess, sa mga tulad natin na scientists, I think yun, as a person, kailangan mong makita kung ano yung perfect balance for you when you enter a certain project. Kasi, for example, like sa field natin, hindi ganun kadami yung items, when na merong items for acquisition. When you kahit saan yan, like in government agencies or in, say, universities, ganon. So most of the people working for these research projects are contractual. So you need to know, kung ano yung perfect balance for you. Like, would you like to do this project na gustong-gusto mo pero maliit yung sahod? Or, diba, like, you have other options. But if you're okay with that, then that's good. But you need to know na dapat yun, may balance nga sa either sa life mo, work-life balance, sa sahod mo, gano'n. You need to know that as a person. Kasi
Yes.
At the end of the day, like ito yung sinasabi ng mga tao, like, hindi ka kasi napapakain ng passion mo nga. So you need to, pag wala,
Exactly.
Kung wala ka ng research project, tas kailangan mo pa rin magtrabaho, pero wala kang sweldo, I mean, diba? It does not work that way. You learn to say no, you learn when to give up, and you learn when to value yourself. Kasi,
yes. At the end of the day, ikaw ang
ikaw ang bida ng buhay mo, Char.
Hindi, I mean, ikaw yung gumagawa ng research. So, ikaw yung magdidictate nung pace mo.
Yeah, I mean, kasi may nakikita ko nga din, like yung iba, diba, especially ngayon, so parang yung iba gusto mag full-time student lang kasi ayaw nga nila na may loads para relatively mas mabilis graduate. Yung iba naman gusto combination, mag-RA habang nag-aaral, so gano'n. So, yun, parang kumbaga, kung what's best na for you. Oo. Parang do it and then don't compare yourself sa iba kasi iba-iba tayo ng timeline. Diba? Ganon. Kasi doon ka na si stress na nga trabaho mo, isipin mo pa yung ganon. So, I mean, kanya-kanya tayo naman, kaya kailangan mong hanapin yung balance yung balance mo.
Personal balance.
Oo. Kasi, yun. Kasi kung hindi mo nahanap yun, parang, girl, hindi talaga, it's not an easy job, pero, diba, wala namang madaling job.
Wala madali.
Pero yun na nga. It would help in a way kung yun, alam mo kung ano yung nag-work sa'yo.
Okay. So, do you have anything to promote, Joey?
Ako, wala. Siguro i-promote ko na lang yung lab namin sa UP Mindanao. So it's Coral Reef Resiliency and Ecology Studies. So we have a Facebook page and currently we have a project funded by the OSTP CAARD. So our project is DNA barcoding in Celebes Sea and also in Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi area. So we have collaborators around in Mindanao, and that's what we're doing right now. No, so fish barcoding. So if you want to know more, please support our Facebook page. Nandun naman yung details kung anong ginagawa namin. So baka lang kung gusto niyo magkaroon ka ng interest.
Yeah, and for listeners in Mindanao who are studying at UPM, baka ma-entice kayo dun sa researches ng lab ni na Joey. You can contact them directly.
And we need more people working in science.
Yes. Always. Across all genders.
Yes.
So, ayun. Thank you very much, Joey, for joining us in our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking to you and makipagchikahan, basically.
True. Soon, pag napunta ako ulit dyan.
Yes. Or if may chance pumunta naman ako ng Mindanao.
Sure.
Ayan. So, again, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you again on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Keith.